Welcome everybody to our call this morning. So today we are really excited to have Frank. I think to many of you, Frank is not new. You know, he's been in the space for some time. We've hosted him several times. I love his insights when it comes to the crypto ecosystem, his analysis, and I'm pretty sure he will be able to give us a bit of that. But even more importantly, also, he's the Tezos lead for Kenya. Probably a lot of us may not be familiar with the Tezos ecosystem, but Frank is here to actually, break it down to us and tell us all about it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm not new to crypto. I think I've been in the crypto space for about 5 years now. I have worked actually with the crypto startups for quite a while. I've always wanted to know what else is happening in the crypto ecosystem beyond Bitcoin. And that essentially has been something that keeps me grounded on what else I can discover about the ecosystem. So for me, I'd say honestly, I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist. So I try as much as possible to learn about what other ecosystems in this space have to offer, because I know that whoever believes in crypto definitely has something that they can be able to share with people who might want to figure out what they can do with these other protocols. So that's essentially what I do. I teach a lot about crypto. I learn a lot about crypto, and I know that at the end of the day, whatever I figure out as a use case for the ecosystem is not the be all and whatever. Like, no, it's not the only thing that everyone needs to know. People want to have or know diversity, so they can be able to find that out by knowing that they can find other ecosystems that work for them, and they can be able to discover new ideas, new ways of doing things within that same space. That essentially just brings me joy. To be able to know that I have introduced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people to another way of understanding Bitcoin, beyond the essentials of Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is just, it's not one thing. Like, we have Bitcoin maximalists, but then we also have Ethereum maximalists, and then we have Tezos people, people who also believe in Tezos. So just getting people to know that, you know what, at the end of the day, I have options which I can be able to figure out. And I think I want this more than this, or I can figure out 1, 2, 3 things in these 3 ecosystems. Just sharing that is for me one of the main things that I really appreciate about the ecosystem. So for me, being the Tezos ecosystem lead in Kenya is not like a be all and all. For me, it's just an opportunity to introduce that ecosystem to whoever is going to be interested by what I have to share right now today, and then for them to take advantage of the things that they can be able to pick from that and use that to progress, going forward, in a way that they can be able to, build themselves and whatnot. So I don't want to go through the past of what I've been through in my blockchain crypto history, but for me, it's just to introduce you to a new world that other people can be able to explore.
Thanks for that, Frank. And I think also, maybe at this point, I would also be, like to sort of mention something that you've said, the blockchain space is not just about Bitcoin. There are other ecosystems that have come up. Maybe it's also good to sort of, you let us know at this time where we are in the blockchain space. There are options now out there. I think a recent report came out and said Bitcoin dominance might likely be challenged in the near future in a big way, to the point that Bitcoin dominance will probably be about 40% very soon. Maybe you can sort of just talk to us about the importance of this dominance and what's happening, who's dominating now, who's taking that 60%, and then maybe we can then get into the Tezos ecosystem.
Honestly, Bitcoin has always been the number one crypto throughout, right? Sure. But then we've seen how strongly Ethereum has been coming through. And that is being challenged by so many factors, the improvements with the ETH price movements. We've seen it come out very strongly, especially when they started to make improvements with the Ethereum ecosystem improvement, the London hard fork. That has made things be very different. They literally just shifting from proof of work to proof of stake. That's a very, very big deal, and that in itself is making things change in a way that is changing the price. Like, honestly, I was doing an Ethereum transaction a few days ago. The first price that I saw, I'd say not the price, I'd say the whatever was being charged for me to be able to do that transaction on Ethereum was about $15, and then it was again $28. I didn't do that transaction at that time, so I had to wait. The next day, I was able to do that same transaction for $6-7, and that made a big difference for me. I was like, yes, let me do this. Yeah, $6-7, that's doable for me. I can do that transaction for $28, right? So just knowing that those small improvements are able to make me be able to go through with whatever I want to do is enough traction for me to know that I can trust this network, right? And going forward, also realizing that other networks that exist in the blockchain system are things that I can be able to explore. For example, Tezos, which is what we're going to be talking about today, gives me that confidence that I can be able to do anything in as far as transaction is concerned in this ecosystem. I know I can do any transaction, anyone. In fact, we're going to have a very practical session here today. I will be able to share some Tezos with people, with someone who's in this space today, and I will not be doing that transaction with any sort of worry that I don't have enough transaction fees to be able to make that happen, right? It's very cheap. The same way we can talk about Solana, very cheap. They're also doing a ton of things very awesome in the space, and those are very, very commendable progress, right? So essentially, we want to make people feel comfortable to be able to do not just transactions, but even any sort of activities that they'd want on this space, knowing that they can comfortably be able to transact, be able to do whatever activities, be it NFTs, be it, there's so much happening in this space. And in fact, honestly, David, my main problem with this space is that there's so much happening, and it's happening so fast that newbies, people who are just coming in for the first time, are not able to catch up with all that, activity, which is so fast moving, for them to catch up. And then, it's up to us, people who've been here for the longest time, and we try as much as we can, of course, to catch up with all that new developments, these new people, to understand in the simplest way, to explain to them in the simplest way, for them to know, oh, now, there was ICOs. Oh, now there's NFTs. Now there's STOs. There's so much. But then it's our job now to get them to understand what else can they do, and what's the simplest way for us to explain to them what's happening, and how can they be able to take advantage of these opportunities that are coming up. And just, let's build each other. Essentially, that's it for me.
Sure, that's a great introduction to what we are about to discuss today, Frank. Yeah, and thank you also for those personal opinions, which I concur with, definitely. This space is moving fast enough that we all need to realize that, again, it's just like any opportunities that come. You need to grab them, or to see them before they sort of become mainstream. And I believe that's where we are with blockchain, with DeFi, with NFTs. Yeah, I know, and what's happening within the ecosystem. So Frank, I think at this point I would like you to sort of just introduce Tezos and let us know what it's all about.
Sure. Devi, please tell me, what has been your thoughts on NFTs so far?
So for me personally, NFTs, when NFTs first came out, they looked like just hype. It looked like a passing fad, that like just something that people are just getting excited about. But I think after some time, I came to realize this is not going away. People are actually building things that will last here. When people start realizing that the way we think of value is shifting, and it's not going back to how it used to be. We are, the world is not going back to the traditional way of doing things. We are just moving forward, and that to me tells me that NFTs are here to stay, because this value, this is really a new way of value transfer that we are seeing. I've seen very interesting projects around NFTs. People now exchanging value, not just for, initially it looked like it was just pictures, but now I see people actually exchanging or representing real world assets with NFTs. And I think increasingly we see that as celebrities join in, this is only going to get bigger. So I think we are just at the tip of the iceberg. So we are still early, and we are going to see some amazing things with NFTs. I've seen Tezos have also come on board. I mean, they've also jumped onto the NFT bandwagon. Maybe you can also tell us a bit about that later on.
Sure.
And as we wait for Frank to set up, again, feel free to ask questions. Frank is more than ready to answer questions, not just about Tezos, but also about crypto. If you're new to crypto, if you're just getting started, you're trying to figure your way around, feel free to throw that question. We'll be answering questions at the end of this session. Yeah, and we also have a resource list there Eunice has shared. Feel free to check out those resources. If you're new to crypto, if you want to follow Frank, if you want to follow other communities, all the links are there.
I have a very long presentation. All our participants, thank you for showing up. And I wanted to let you all know that I have a ton of presentations to share, but then I'll try as much as possible to focus on the most essential things that people would want to know about Tezos. So if you're already familiar with the blockchain, this may not be very hard to understand. I just want to be very brief, and of course, we'll cover the most through the questions that you're gonna be asking, right? So Tezos is a protocol. It's a blockchain that is actually open publicly to everyone who would want to understand how it works and what it does, right? And of course, Tezos is trying to really solve a real world problem to create solutions for people who see some sort of challenges, you know, and essentially to be very, I'd say, to be very direct with you is you need to understand that literally we are all offline, right? That's true. And you essentially, your superiors manage things, but then they don't get to the bottom of the problem, right? I'd want to summarize this particular slide by saying that a lot of us are offline, of course, but then we don't have a lot of money online. We don't have a lot of our interactions online in a way that we would prefer, right? So that means that there's something that we need to resolve going forward in the way that we sort of interact individually, right? In the human sense. And that actually means that we would need to try as much as we can to be open to a technology that would enable us to interact online in a way that all of us can be able to trust each other, because that essentially is the purpose of blockchain, create trust in a way that would make us, I don't need to know you as David, as Juliana. No, I don't need to know you. My only worry is, can I trust you, right? So that is one of the essential things that the Tezos ecosystem is trying to bring forward for all of us, right? So, like I said previously, so why blockchain? For anyone who's new to blockchain, just for me to summarize this slide, the blockchain is a ledger, and the ledger essentially is a way of making sure that we can all trust each other without even knowing each other. For anyone who's ever worked on a blockchain or even done any transaction on a blockchain, anyone who's ever traded on a blockchain, they know that at the end of the day, I can be able to sell my crypto to anyone I am finding on a blockchain platform, like an exchange, without even knowing them. I don't need to know you, right? The blockchain essentially makes sure that I can trust you without knowing you, right? So that is one of the most, I think, one of the most important factors that people need to consider for them to know that they can trust a blockchain ecosystem through the escrow, right? So I want to do a trade with you. Yes, I don't know you. I don't need to know you, right? I'll be able to send you my crypto, and then I am so sure I'll be guaranteed that you'll be able to send me back. If it's like a trade that we're doing, as simple as you sending me money and then I send you crypto, yeah, the blockchain is there in the middle as an escrow, as a guarantee that I'll be able to trust you to do that trade, right? And essentially that's what crypto does. So imagine if crypto, imagine if if blockchain was going to do that for any other transaction that you wanted to do. Imagine if you wanted to sell land. Imagine if you wanted to sell some sort of property, be it a car or whatever. The blockchain essentially works to ensure that the transaction will happen, and it will guarantee you that transfer between the two parties without any sort of issue between you two, right? So there are no lawyers involved, in a way that, it's like a back and forth conversation, people are arguing. No, you put together your whatever you're offering, the other party also puts together whatever they're offering, and then that transfer happens seamlessly without any issue, because that escrow that we're trusting will definitely make sure that the transfer happens without any sort of back and forth conversation. We don't want to have any sort of arguments with each other. That essentially is what the blockchain does. And that essentially is why blockchain exists. Going forward, I think, like I said, we have so much. So this is a very long, it's a very long presentation, but I'm trying to, as much as I can, to make sure that this is covered in the shortest way possible. And of course, as David said, we will be able to cover any other questions that you might have down after the end of the conversation. So I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have, right? So whatever blockchain is doing is essentially what I've been able to talk about, building that trust network that anyone can be able to understand. 2, 3, 4, 5 parties, you can be able to trust me that as long as we're doing any sort of interaction within the blockchain, it's going to be done, right? No single point of failure. That is a very important point. Actually, let me just get this highlighted. No single point of failure. Like you don't need to know me. You don't need to trust me. You just need to find me on that network. That is essentially what you need to know, or what you need to trust for you to be able to interact with me. The network itself, the blockchain ecosystem, is enough for you to know that you can be able to interact with me for that particular interaction. It doesn't matter if we are if we are transacting $10 with each other. It doesn't matter if we are selling a house, a car with each other. The blockchain will entrust you to know that, you know what, at the end of the day, You will have your car, you will have your house, you will have the means to transact that, to send back the money for you and for me to have the house, whatever. At the end of the day, you are guaranteed that that transaction that you're getting into is going to happen the way you saw it advertised on whatever platform that you got to know this information about, right? So essentially, most of whatever is under this is basically just to I'm basically just trying to summarize all this information in the simplest way that I can. So why public blockchain? So there's public blockchain, there's private blockchain. And there's a reason why these two exist. And it's because a public blockchain as a protocol essentially is it has certain unique features. So I'd want to draw your attention on, maybe on my side, it's on the right side, the small chart that you can see, which is permissioned blockchain. It's public. So essentially it means, so we're talking about two things right now, right? Permissioned and permissionless, right? Permissioned means it's only selected network participants can validate those transactions. Now, a permissioned blockchain, which is a public permissioned blockchain, essentially is a blockchain that is open to everyone else on the network. A public blockchain is essentially an open blockchain that is available to everyone who can be able to see it, right? And they essentially have the ability to see everything that is happening on the network at any time. So that essentially means, for example, that if I sent a transaction to David or to Juliana, there's a network that is open to anyone who's on the internet who can be able to see what did I send to them? How much did I send to them? Did it arrive? How much did it cost? So that is open to anyone, right? That's a permissioned blockchain. It's open to anyone who's on the internet to see, right? And then now the permissionless is essentially a private blockchain. It's a blockchain that is, it still works, it still has those elements of the blockchain, but then it's limited to a set number of people, right? Permissioned, permissionless blockchains essentially work for a set number of people. So it's only limited to maybe people who work in the organization. The same way, maybe you could be working in a company and then they're able to open up to you the ability for you to see how many people have access to your email. And even if you are to send your email, they'd actually ask you, are you sure you want to send this email or this document to someone who's not within that company? that sort of thing. So that's basically covers what permissioned and permissionless blockchains work, private and public, right? So the cost, the benefits of closed networks are limited, like I just explained. It's only to a set number of people, the people who are able to see whatever you're sharing with, right? So in fact, today's internet application wouldn't be possible if we only had intranets, like permission. That's why essentially people or maybe countries, countries are able to limit the ability of their citizens to access internet. That's why, for example, unfortunately, some African countries usually end up limiting access to internet for their citizens whenever they're having elections. It's because it's private. It's private, it's limited, and they're able to make sure that any person who is capable of giving internet access to their citizens can limit access to that by them telling them, or just basically just giving them instructions. You know what? Don't let anyone who's within this radius, and that radius is essentially the radius, our country. Don't let anyone have access to the internet. And that's why VPNs even exist, right? So it's a big problem. But of course, people have always found a way of getting access to internet access within their boundaries, even if the countries would limit it, and it's a big problem. And I am so excited to talk about this because I'd speak about Web3 and how we want to decentralize internet access to people. Not a discussion for the day, but just one of the things that would make you understand why we can still have a discussion today about permissioned and permissionless internet access, right? Yeah. So the next thing, fixed cost of maintaining that network, right? Well, of course, right now internet access is very expensive, honestly, for a lot of people. Internet should be open to anyone who wants to access it, right? But then that's not possible at the moment for so many reasons. We'll talk about why public blockchains, tap into the wisdom of the crowds and into the intrinsic motivation, while private blockchains are solely developed by and paid by intrinsic motivated people. So this essentially means that at the end of the day, if we had a network that was open to everyone and you didn't have any sort of restrictions, it's actually always cheaper when it's open. It's always cheaper when it's open. And I'm going to basically just share this by explaining this through what I truly believe in. I honestly believe in open source. I believe in open source in the sense that, for example, personally, I play chess a lot. I love playing chess. I think I play chess for like 3 hours every day. No, an hour every day, an hour. 20 minutes of chess for me every day. I play chess for an hour 20 minutes of each game every day. And the platform that I use to play chess with is an open source platform. It's free. It's open for everyone. Whoever built that platform essentially doesn't charge. They don't charge me to play chess on that platform. I play chess there for free, and it's open source. All they have is a small signal on the platform where they ask you, please donate. If you love this so much, please donate. And they have so many options for you to donate, for you being able to play chess on that platform. And I love it so much. And I always donate because I create so many important networks through that platform just by seeing the value that I'm able to get through that platform. I get a ton of emails, people who are interested in interacting with me just because of how that game went, and they're curious to find out, okay, so where are you from? Because we always play chess anonymously. Where are you from? I meet people from Asia, from the US. I meet people from all parts of the world. Being able to find a platform that you can interact with people from so many different places is enough for me to be curious about them and to build trust through them, right? And that happens. It doesn't happen on the blockchain though, but this is why blockchain comes in. This is why Tezos comes in. It's because just being able to trust people from different places who you've never met, who you've never known, and who you even able to pay, like just go into your pocket and just pay them and have all these means seamlessly just pay them, is enough to just build trust. That's one of the things that blockchain does. And being able to do that for cheap is very important. Tezos is very cheap to transact with. I will be able to do a transaction, and in fact, I'm going to ask right now, while we're having this conversation, I'm going to ask someone to send me right now, I think the first 2 people who will be able to send me the Tezos addresses, I'll send them some Tezos directly. Yeah, right. So of course, the third point is public blockchains tap into the wisdom of the crowds. The more people you have, blockchains essentially thrive a lot because of the ecosystem, because of the community, because of the people who believe in them, right? So being able to exist in an ecosystem that has a lot of followers is really good to ensure that it thrives, right? And of course, public blockchains provide much higher immutability, security against manipulation, of course, through stronger decentralization. Yeah, sure. And then I think going forward, oh, by the way, this information that I'm sharing right now is very open. It's very public. I'm going to be able to share this with everyone who has who's attending this class. Um, and of course, you can be able to study further on what this is all about. I can see a message. Yeah, I see someone has sent in their Tezos address. Yeah, so I'm going to be able to share that with them at the end of the class. Whoever else is interested, please share your Tezos address. I'll send you some Tezos.
Do I qualify?
Devi.
Yes.
Well, send in your Tezos address.
All right.
All right, great. Yeah, so I'm trying to avoid as much as possible to talk about the technical bit of this, but let's see. Yeah, so why Tezos? And I think this is actually why we're all here. Why Tezos? Tezos, I got this presentation from the founders of Tezos. As you can see, that's why it's very long, very long. It's a technology, of course, software project. So anyone can be able to take advantage of this on a peer-to-peer network, right? Of course, blockchain based, decentralized, of course. And then, of course, it has a cryptocurrency, XTZ, right? That's why I've seen some addresses being sent here. So the people who sent in the addresses, they, of course, have an idea of what Tezos is and how it works, right? It's public, of course, permissionless, open blockchain, and it definitely has a very strong future. And one of the things that is really, really important about Tezos is the fact that it's upgradable in the sense that it uses a proven on-chain governance mechanism that is based on proof of stake, which is what Ethereum is trying to do now. And for anyone who is familiar with Ethereum, for example, they know that Ethereum right now is actually shifting from proof of work to proof of stake before, because proof of stake has been proven to be much faster. It's much cheaper, right? And it essentially works way better than proof of work, right? The one thing that we also need to mention today is it's not just a essential proof of stake, liquidated proof of stake, which is scalable, and then of course doesn't consume so much energy. For anyone who's been following what's been happening in the crypto blockchain ecosystem, there's always been this issue, this question that people have been asking, that blockchains consume so much power, they're so expensive, and we don't need blockchains at all, right? But then that has been demystified over the past couple of weeks, because we know for the people who understand blockchain, or for the people who have been here for long, who understand that technology. They know that essentially blockchains are actually there. They exist to make availability of blockchain, availability of energy to be much cheaper, because they're always trying to get the cheapest means of getting and just generating energy, right? So that's one thing we all have to agree on. We all have to understand. There's no way that you're going to say that blockchains are too expensive because of how much energy that they consume. No. There's a lot more advantage to derive from blockchains without bringing in the energy consumption issue, because blockchains really try as much as possible to even utilize the cheapest sources of energy available in order for them to even be sustainable, right? So that's something that we've been able to debunk over the past couple of weeks, right? And of course, Tezos, essentially as a blockchain, as a crypto, is secured and uses the purpose-built functional language, the Colson, which allows formal verification of smart contracts. Of course, smart contracts, really important thing that we all have to consider. The essentially allow the technology to just be able to what's the word, to be able to function without outside sources, right? And then Tezos, of course, it's driven by a vibrant, very active community. Yes, of course, with a lot of academic backing, and then it has so many powerful features that are scalable. Layer 2, of course, that enables scalability. And I think scalability, I'm sorry if I'm getting a bit excited on this, but then layer 2 is a very interesting feature that I find even in Bitcoin. One of the main issues that people used to have about Bitcoin to start with, because there's no way we're going to have a conversation about blockchain without talking about Bitcoin. Yeah. Layer 2 is really interesting, because people have been saying, oh, you know what, Bitcoin is very slow, we're not able to send funds directly for cheap very fast. But then layer 2 happened. Layer 2 happened in Ethereum. Layer 2 is happening right now on Ethereum, and they've made it fast. We can be able to do very, very fast transactions cheaply, right? That is new. That is new for everyone. That is new for people who never thought that Bitcoin could function differently, right? Very interesting. That already exists on Tezos. I mean, like I said earlier, I am able to send funds. I will be able to do that. I can see a lot of messages coming in. Yeah, I'm going to send some funds. I'm going to send some Tezos to who's been able to send me the addresses. And it's going to be very fast, and it's going to be very efficient, it's going to be very cheap, right? That's one of the things that layer 2 does, right? So that essentially means that you're able to do your transactions very efficiently. And honestly, I don't know where any of these people exist. Yeah, some of them are in Kenya, yes. Some of them are in other parts of the world, right? But then I'll be able to do that same transaction directly, very cheap fees, you know, and essentially I'm trying to prove that this is something that works. This is something that we can all be able to entrust and see that it actually works in a way that proves otherwise of anyone who's probably had doubts about blockchain, essentially blockchain, not just any blockchain, but now for this particular conversation, the Tezos blockchain, right? So my next slide is essentially as our KPIs, what we've been able to do over the past couple of years. Since 2018, that's when we've been existing. 880,000 blocks, 440,000 funded accounts, 1.2 billion market cap, 40 transactions per second. Yeah, very impressive, you know. 400 active validators, which is actually something we're gonna get into, which is what I really want us to also focus on a lot in this conversation. We want people to start baking on the Tezos blockchain, right? Inflation 5.5%, 3 implementations, very successful, and of course 15 active projects. Another thing that we're also going to cover. So anyone who's looking into building something on the Tezos blockchain can actually be able to reach out to me, reach out to the Tezos ecosystem, the Tezos leads, and they'll be able to be assisted on how to progress, because Tezos essentially will provide you with funding, technical support, and anything that you would need to be able to build something on the blockchain, right? Yeah. So this is essentially amendment process, on-chain governance, and that essentially ensures that the Tezos blockchain works, or how it works. Like I said, I'm going to share a lot of this after this presentation, and I'm trying as much as possible to like just not go through everything, because it's a lot of presentations for me to talk about. All this is just technical. You can be able to cover it, and of course, like I said, very open. Myself, our Twitter and whatnot is always available to cover any sort of issues that you might want to ask, in as far as understanding how the Tezos ecosystem operates or works, right? Yep. Yeah, so these are just blockchain essentials, soft, hard forks, governance system, right? Of course, makes it, I mentioned it, I mentioned this earlier, it makes it more energy efficient, cheaper, of course, the network is very secure, I think one of the main questions that people have been asking is, can I hack a blockchain? And that has always been answered a lot of times. You can't hack a blockchain, right? You cannot hack a blockchain. Blockchains are secured by a network of validators. You cannot do that. So it's always been a question that so many people ask, but then the answer is still the same, right? So who owns? The people who are part of the ecosystem on Tezos are the ones that own Tezos, right? Validators, the people who vote, and any other person who has a stake in the ecosystem are the ones who just have access to the Tezos ecosystem, right? Right? Yeah. So the rest, smart contracts, covered it pretty much. As you can see, I'm on page 34 of my 53 slides. I may not be able to cover everything, but essentially, I think maybe Devi, you can help me on this. I have covered the basics of what I need to talk about. If there are questions that we need to talk about, I am very open to them. But beyond that, I have this presentation open for everyone. And beyond that, I'd want to, I'd want to just get the feedback from the community, from the participants about what they'd want to know about Tezos and why we are getting into the Kenyan community, why we are trying to build the Kenyan community, and how we can be able to assist them to get on board.
Yeah. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, so I think we can share the slides. I've actually seen somebody asking if you can make the slides available. So we can probably share them via email. So if you signed up via email, we'll share this with via your email. So expect these slides to be available. So I think at this point, we have quite a number of questions, Frank.
Yes.
Due to time, I think we'll just go through the questions. But just before we get to the questions, maybe do you mind telling us a bit about Tezos right now? How is it performing, and possibly why it's performing the way it is right now?
Yeah, so sure. One thing that we all have to agree on is that a lot of the performance of the market so far is based on the performance of Bitcoin, and that's a given, right? However, I will want to let everyone know about what other things that I do on the side. I have this podcast that I host. It's called the Market Analysis Podcast, and I usually host it with Robert Njogu, who's always been right on the money on everything that I've been talking about. So Robert told me that, yeah, I need to get into Tezos. Yeah, I need to buy, I need to fill my bags with Tezos. And everything else he's told me prior, he told me about Solana, but about 3 months ago. Look at what Solana has done right now, right? Tezos is a very strong ecosystem. It has a very strong ecosystem. It's a very strong blockchain, which we can all entrust in. And yeah, I can just give the guarantee. Not financial advice, of course, like we always say, but Tezos is going to make the numbers. And it's because it's growing. The reason I am I'm also like very confident about it. It's because I've seen it from afar. I've seen what it's been able to do over the past couple of months. It's coming through, and they're building up a lot of what the community is expecting. So clearly, I'm going to vouch for Tezos, of course, as not just as a currency, of course, but also as an investment, so to speak.
All right, great. Yeah, thanks for that confidence in Tezos, of which you obviously represent. Yeah, so I think just getting straight to the questions, I think we have quite a number of questions, but such limited time. Maybe, Frank, if you can be able to sort of answer the questions like in a really simplified format. We have someone here, I think it's Dunga. They've asked quite a number of questions. So they're asking, I think they're new into the blockchain space, because they're asking, what's the difference between blockchain and normal computer networks, e.g. the internet? You know, he says he keeps getting confused with the two words, blockchain and network, because he sees them being interchanged. So maybe you can explain that.
Sure. It's a very good question, and I'd say the simple answer might be a bit long, but then the simple answer is
yeah, let's make them short. We have quite a number of
yes. So the internet is open, right? It's open for everyone. You can't kill the internet, really. At the same time, you can't kill blockchain. Now, the blockchain exists on the internet. But then the blockchain is managed by people who exist on the internet. So the short answer is that you need to know that the people who manage the internet can be, the main difference is the people who manage the internet are mostly like ISPs, especially when you go to geographic levels, right? That's why you hear, oh, Uganda has shut down the internet, but then Uganda cannot shut down the blockchain, right? So essentially, it's that the blockchain is a much stronger, bigger sort of ecosystem, because I can be able to access my Bitcoins because there's a validator, or I can be able to access my Tezos in the US or in Canada because there's a validator in that particular country. But then my president, for example, cannot be able to shut down my Bitcoin or my Bitcoin access because it's already being backed up by whoever is in whichever country that they're in. So I'd say that main difference is at the end of the day, just know that the Bitcoin is managed and owned by people who exist randomly across the world. But then the internet might be geographically limited because of your location. So I'd say the blockchain is much stronger because its entire ecosystem is owned and managed by people who exist randomly in different places.
All right, great. Also, Dunga is asking another question as well. So maybe again, let's keep it short. Maybe you can answer this. What are these words as used in blockchain? We can start protocol.
Yeah, so a protocol is essentially a network that is managed by different people who exist in different places, randomly existing in different places. So for example, I'd say the Ethereum protocol, the Bitcoin protocol, the Eternity protocol, they all exist randomly in different places. So that means they have sort of servers, so to speak, in different places of the world. And then those are the ones that manage or own that, they manage the existence of that protocol, of that network, of that system, right?
Right.
So that essentially means that, let's assume that right now we are talking on Zoom, right? So if Zoom was only owned or managed, this Jeff Bezos company,
Amazon.
yeah, by Amazon Web, right? That means if Amazon goes down, Zoom will go down. That's why sometimes we have Google going down, right? But then, if you're operating on this other network, that means that you can have access to that network as long as it's being hosted by all these other different people. So at the end of the day, you're not limited by, for example, Amazon. You can still be able, I can go to UK and I'll be able to access the network that is hosting my crypto, my Bitcoin, whatever, right? That essentially, right. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I hope it's clear to Dunga. Another explanation, he wants the word explained. So it's quite a few, so try and keep them short. What's a token?
I will explain the meaning of a token by
in less than 2 minutes.
Yes. Yes, I'm going to explain that by also including something else, a token and a coin. Yeah, they coexist, right?
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, the question is long, so maybe when explaining token, also explain what a native token is, a governance token, and a meme coin. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're gonna have to remind me a bit of the rest of the question, but then the reason I wanted to answer this with relation to other things is because a coin is like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a native coin that is built off of a crypto, like sorry, built out of a blockchain, right? So that's why we have Bitcoin. Now, a token is built out of a token. The reason we have the coin exists because it's built out of the blockchain. For example, the Bitcoin blockchain builds out the Bitcoin, right? Right. The token exists out of a function of the blockchain, right? So it's some sort of subsidiary of what the blockchain does, right? So I'd say that's the main difference. A meme coin is like what Dogecoin does. So a meme coin is just built out of interest from a small community that is trying to imitate what a blockchain does, or what cryptocurrencies do. Yeah, I don't know if that answers it.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I love the explanation of the token. Yes, actually, we even have sort of a similar explanation on the website. So for one who wants to see, we actually have a post there, the difference between coins and tokens. So people can check out our website. Yeah, but thanks for that explanation, Frank.
Sure.
Also, maybe break it down. What's the difference between a native token and a governance token?
Yeah, so governance tokens are, they exist because they're meant to enable people to have a stake in making decisions in a decentralized autonomous organization, right? So if, for example, I have 51% stake in a DAO, and then I own 51% stake in this, for whatever DAO it is, I will have more say as opposed to other people who have less say in that ecosystem. So essentially, what it gives me is the voting power to be able to have a stronger pool or stronger decision making in that sort of community, in a way that I can be able to speak more, or basically have more say in how the progression of that particular ecosystem is going to be run, because, you know, essentially have more power. So governance tokens essentially like voting power. So how much power do I have as someone who owns more governance tokens in this space as opposed to other people? Like, why do I have the ability to speak more in this space as opposed to any other person? It's because I have been given that governance vote, that governance token, to be able to elevate my, you know, basically I can be able, I have more stake, essentially, I have more stake in driving the ability or the progress of this particular conversation, or this particular vote, or this particular movement, more than other people. So for them to have more stake in the ability to progress the value of our program, they need to have more stake than me. But then I have more governance tokens, I have more stake, like I have more voting power, essentially. The same way we can talk about NATO, we can talk about the UN, right? The US has more sort of, I say, governance power, governance tokens in the UN, because they have more power, they have more ability to just impose their the pull on what will happen on in the UN, right, going forward. So essentially, that's what it means.
All right, yeah, well explained. Izo is asking, apart from the Tezos ecosystem main token, XTZ, what other promising tokens are there on the Teasers ecosystem so far?
I'd want to not talk about what else is happening on Tezos. If you could allow me, let me just talk about what else is happening on and the reason I don't want to talk about more about whatever else is happening in Tezos is because I don't want to, like, sort of pull some sort of politics, right? So for me, it's what else is happening in the crypto space. I prefer to be more open in what's happening in crypto, essentially. For when it comes to Tezos, I want people to just take their time and just you just go. You just go and learn about everything else that's happening. Allow me to just talk about essentially what else is happening in crypto in general. Let me just talk about Ethereum. Allow me to talk about Solana, and of course, Bitcoin. So those are making very big moves, yes, beyond Tezos. But for Tezos, I'd want people to essentially just go learn about whatever else you're seeing there. I'll share as much information as I can on it so that I don't make it look like, you know, I'm siding with one party and, you know, not another, and what that sort of thing. So yeah, just look at the wider crypto space. Beyond Tezos, what else do you see happening? For me, Ethereum is happening. Solana is happening. Bitcoin, of course, is happening. So those I can vouch for as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. You know, a well-rounded viewpoint. Victor is asking, again, more or less related to that. You know, apart from hodling the Tezos native token, what other opportunities should we look out for in the Teasers ecosystem?
Baking some Tezos, and it's actually very cheap to start baking. You can start baking wherever you are, and all it takes is just getting like very small equipment, which is actually available locally. So
maybe at this point I might ask, is baking the same as staking? Or
yeah, so essentially baking means you have, baking essentially means that you're sort of like a miner of sorts, right? But then it's so easy to do that. You can do that with a Raspberry Pi. I have all the equipment, I have all the information that you need to start baking. And actually, the complete setup is going to cost less than $200, you know, to set up, right? So get a Raspberry Pi, set it up, put it online and whatnot. I have all that information, which is part of what I'm going to be sharing. And that's it. So, and then you just stick a bit of it, and then you will start earning some XTZ coins.
all right, awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think Frank will be sharing that information, and then we'll share with everybody via email if you signed up. So yeah, look out for that email. Personally, I'm also looking forward to baking. So also, now a bit away from Tezos, we have a few questions generally about cryptocurrency. So somebody is asking, does it matter which cryptocurrency one begins with? How interchangeable are the cryptos?
I'd say the best way to get started with crypto is just start with Bitcoin. That's just the hard truth. You have to start with Bitcoin. And it's because, you know, Bitcoin is a very fast crypto that has existed. So many people understand it. So many people know about it. And going forward, essentially, it's one of the things that a lot of people will be looking forward to, just as a crypto. But then, of course, beyond Bitcoin, there's a lot of other things happening, like Tezos, right? And the reason this is important is to give you the basic essentials to understand blockchain, right? So anytime I even talk to people about blockchain, I have to start with Bitcoin, right? It's very important, and it's because that's like the I'd say the there's this what we call the first principles. If you understand the first principles, if you understand the basic elements of anything you're trying to learn, anything, you get the basics right, the rest are going to be very easy for you to get right. You're going to maneuver your way around everything else. So I'd say just start with the Bitcoin blockchain. The rest will come through very easily for you.
All right. Okay. Sort of like learning the table of elements.
Exactly.
That's the foundation of everything.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So there's a question here also from, so that was a question from Kennedy. So thanks for that. We have a question from Victor. I think it's Victor is asking, do companies build their own blockchains differently? And if companies build their own blockchains, can other people or firms build blockchains on top of a company's blockchain? So he says, I mean, build another blockchain upon an existing blockchain. Then he says, is Tezos a company's name that has its own blockchain? And is blockchain the same as cryptocurrency? Maybe you can.
It's a long question, but I would say that there's what they call enterprise blockchain. So those are mostly like private blockchains, which are built by individual companies for them to be able to get things done with other enterprises and whatnot. I don't know about like building a blockchain on top of another blockchain, because the blockchain essentially exists to be a ledger, where you can be able to follow through. So what happened here? When did it happen? I can be able to track transactions. So why would I need another blockchain on top of the other? Like, why would maybe, maybe, yeah. So maybe what I thought they wanted to ask is, why is there Bitcoin and why is there Ethereum? Why is there Tezos? Why is there the other blockchains? They're not built on top of the others. They just pretty much just I won't say copy, but then they use the same concept to build something on top of what the original blockchain, which was Bitcoin, did. So Bitcoin essentially existed to build a network where people can be able to transact value directly, right? And then Ethereum, as a second blockchain, came in to be able to build other values on top of what Bitcoin could do, because Bitcoin was just there to transact the value. I can be able to send you, Davey, $25 directly, just like that. Ethereum came in and then they thought through the concept and they're like, you know what? I can do other things on top of, as opposed to just, transferring value. I can be able to build DeFi, NFTs, and whatever else is coming up, right? Tezos is there to build other things on top of it, and like just creating more value on top of what the original idea was meant to do. Well, of course, we are already seeing even the Bitcoin blockchain trying to do NFTs, Bitcoin blockchain trying to do other things that these other blockchains are doing, but you're not building on top of the blockchain, you're just building a separate element of it based off of what that original idea was doing. So that pretty much is what I could say about it.
All right. Yeah, and maybe it might also just be a good idea to, research a bit about on bridges, what's happening
Yes.
between,
Oh,
uh,
yes, yes. Yeah. Let me just touch on that a bit. Yeah, so we are seeing most recently of other blockchains being able to they're making it possible. For example, I think FTX, yeah, you can be able to they're creating this yeah, there's the bridges, and then there's another word that they use where interoperability, right? So I can, for example, move my crypto from one blockchain to another, which is one thing that's actually BSC has done really well. Blockchain, um, the Binance BSC, Binance Smart Chain, they've been able to do that really well. So you can be able to do a lot of that really well. Even FTX, they are building a chain that can be able to do like interoperability really well. So it's not building on top of anything, but they're just making it possible for people to just move across chains and for cheap and affordably, So yeah, so it's not about like building on top of another. You don't need to build on top of another. Like why? It's not necessary, but you can be able to interact with another blockchain on the other end. Which is something that I think the people who made it happen the best very early in the space was Eric Voorhees with the
Shapeshift.
Yes. So yeah, that they've been able to do very well. They didn't build on top of anyone. They just made it possible to get people to interact seamlessly within each other. I can be able to exchange my Bitcoin for Ethereum, or yeah. Now that is happening even on new technologies like NFTs. I can move my NFT that I minted on Ethereum and move it to Solana. Yeah. So I don't need to like build anything on top of it. They just make it possible to move across those different chains. And that is really great because maybe Devi, you can remember a few months back, actually even a few years, you'd find yourself in a situation whereby if you sent, for example, if you sent certain tokens on a different network, it would get lost, right? I sent
they even had a disclaimer. They always have a disclaimer that if you send this address, you lose. Yeah,
exactly. You're gonna lose your tokens. You're gonna lose your coins just by sending it on a different network. But right now, what they're trying to do is make sure that I can send, as long as it's a wallet yenye iko kwa Binance or BNB, Binance, yeah. And I'm from maybe FTX. I'm from I don't know, maybe even Tezos. I can send it itafika, it'll get there. So I won't lose it. So previously, I would send it, and then as long as it's a different network, I'd lose it and I'd just go and never find it again, right? So it's not building on top of the other. It's just making sure that, what, at the end of the day, why do I need to lose my tokens by sending it to another wallet, which is not on my network, Yeah, so that is happening, and it's happening very fast. And I think very soon, like, I think we're really solving this issue of making it possible to get a lot more people be involved in crypto and whatnot, because we don't want to make it hard so that, sending, like I can send M-Pesa from my M-Pesa. You can send me M-Pesa to my Airtel line. I should be able to receive it, right? That is interoperability, right? That still doesn't exist in crypto. And why? It doesn't make sense, right? That is being solved. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Dunga is asking along the same questions. Is interoperability same as cross-chain?
Pretty much, yes. That is exactly what they're doing. So cross-chain transactions are happening a lot more, and because we are realizing, like, why do you need to lose your tokens by sending it to an address that wasn't on the same network? It doesn't make sense, really. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, so cross-chain is pretty much interoperability. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, Dunga, as you can see, a lot of these solutions are being built now. They are being tested. So you can imagine how early we are. You can imagine just how early we are and what is going to happen in the next few years, so more reason, for you to learn more about these and just take advantage of the opportunities that exist. So also somebody here is asking, what are the use cases for Tezos? Maybe specifically they're asking in Kenya, but I assume what are really the use cases for Tezos?
All right, good question. Let me answer that by telling you that the people who are building or have built Tezos have a history with Ethereum. So whatever you're seeing happening in Ethereum, there's a lot more as well that is happening in Tezos. So you can build applications on top of it that are very fast, seamless, are very reliable, secure, right? So I won't go into the specifics because that would possibly mean that I need to go into sharing what are the use cases, which there's a ton of it. And I've actually talked about use cases, and anyone who understands use cases in blockchain knows there's like so many things you can build on top of the blockchain. Just find the problem, and then the solution is gonna be there. So I don't want to go into the details. I just want to think about what I mean. Maybe just to share. I'd say we have NFTs on Tezos that are being built, and that actually came out very recently. So if you want to mint an NFT, you can do that on Tezos for much cheaper, right? That's possible. Beyond that, there's now a ton of every other thing that you'd want to build on it. So like I said, I'm going to share all that there is to share for everyone who would want to know how the Tezos ecosystem works and what else they can be able to build on it. But like we said, Tezos right now is in Kenya. It's in Africa very actively. So if you want to know anything about Tezos, reach out to us on Tezos Africa on Telegram. We have a whole lot of resources to share, and you can be able to know how to participate. Yeah.
All right. Julius is asking, what competitive projects built on Tezos rival other DeFi projects on other blockchains? Maybe you can do a comparison on them with what we have on other blockchains.
Sorry. Please repeat the question.
So
Because
the
I
question,
had an answer when you're mentioning, when you're asked, when you're talking, I had an answer already, and then I got distracted a bit, and then I missed part of the question.
yeah, so it's in two sections. Let me just ask the first. What competitive projects built on Tezos rival other DeFi projects on other blockchains? And then he's asking, now then you can do a comparison.
Yeah, so let me just talk about two things. Speed is one, fees is the second. So I think I just gave one example of NFTs. Yeah, so fees, clearly, that speaks for itself. And the Tezos ecosystem is really very efficient. So I'd vouch for those two for now. And for anyone who'd want to explore the ecosystem, that's what I'd want to share with them.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, I would also say they check out the NFT marketplace. I think it just launched. So
yeah, and like I said, I have some Tezos tokens. I'm gonna be sharing with some people who sent their details. Maybe you'll share with me those addresses, and then I send it to them.
yep.
And they will actually be able to check on the network how much fees those transactions costed, just to prove the reliability, the speed, and the cost, as an example to. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we'll definitely send you, if you asked a question and Frank answered it, and you sent your Tezos address, then you are eligible. So I hope you asked and we answered. Along those lines, Frank, I think, so these are two questions, but I'll sort of match them. So Collins is asking, is the fact that Tezos isn't a deflationary token a concern? Then I think earlier somebody had asked, I think it's Clifford, on the supply of Tezos, will there be bans? So maybe you can answer those. So does Tezos do any banning? And I think obviously that affects its deflationary, the deflationary aspect of Tezos.
Yeah. So for that question, could you maybe just allow me to share that on the Twitter, on the Twitter, so that I'm sure that I'm answering the question right. Yeah.
All right.
I may not have the right answer at the moment, because like Devi, this space is huge. There's so much to catch up with. There's always new developments and whatnot. Yeah, so let me just answer that on Twitter after I have the right information. Yeah.
All right, no problem. Again, also we've put Frank's Twitter handle on the resource, so please follow that. Again, Eunice, kindly just repost those resources again, Frank specifically. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, Frank will address that, so you can follow him on that. Yeah, looks like those are all the questions for today. Maybe one more question from Dunga, who's asking, what's open source as used in blockchain? Maybe that's a good way of closing this discussion.
Very, very good question. Actually, open source is not used just in blockchain. Open source is also used in the Web 2, the one that we're using right now. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, you know that people get deregistered on Twitter. Your account can be locked on Facebook. for maybe saying some insulting things and whatnot. Now that happens on Web 2.0. That is what happens on the internet that we use right now. However, let me ask you a question. Whoever, that's Dunga, right? Let me ask you a question. If you happened to lose, unfortunately, to lose your email address, your Gmail address, right? And then your Gmail address is what you need to get back your phone access. Your Gmail address is what you need to reach out to other people. It has your contacts on it, right? That's Web 2.0, right? However, today, we have open source email addresses that you can be able to use, which are not owned by companies like Google, right? Today, we have networks that you can be able to use to search. For example, a lot of people here, I know, probably just use Google to search, right? I want to search Bitcoin K, I want to search Bitslat, or Binance, whatever, right? I'm going to use Google, right? Do you know there are other options that exist, which in fact I personally use to reach out to find information, like what's it called? DuckDuckGo. Now, DuckDuckGo is it's pretty much on, I think. DuckDuckGo doesn't store your search information on your phone. You search anything there, after you're done searching, it disappears, right? Now, Web3 is now the ultimate open source network that anyone can use to have complete control over what information that they own and have, right? So Web3, for example, will ensure that we have like essentially the definition of Web3 or of open source, the ultimate open source, in my definition, actually, this is just my definition, is decentralized internet. Decentralized internet means no one will have access to your information. Today, we use the internet, but then we have to pay for the internet by getting ads on YouTube, on like the sites that we visit, right? That's what Web 2 does. That's how we are accustomed to, right? That's a system we have to keep up with, right? But with Web3, there's no third party. There is no there's no one in the middle who wants to like make a cut of your information and whatnot. With Web3, it's you, and it's like peer-to-peer. It's like just you and whoever is sourcing you the information, right? That's, I think, is a main difference. So with Web3, you will definitely have direct access to all the information you have without any sort of ads in the middle who will be keeping track of what you're searching or Googling so that they send you ads for houses or ads for a car. Maybe you're looking for a car, whatever. No, Web3, it's peer-to-peer. There's no one in the middle. Web3 is the ultimate open source. That is how I would describe it.
Yeah, well described. The ultimate open source. I like that. So yeah, so I think with that we come to a close. One more question, Frank. I think this is an even better way to close this discussion. So for someone who wants to open a Tezos address, like how do they get started?
Thank you. Yeah, so now there's an app called, let me just post it here on the chat. It's called Ijara. Ijara or Ejara. Ejara is an app. You'll find it on Google Play, and you can be able to find it's like one of the main I'd say the main Tezos wallets, and particularly for people who are in Africa. So you'll be able to find a wallet there where you can be able to deposit your XTZs. You can be able to send, and of course Bitcoin as well. So it's the one I would definitely recommend. And in fact, for the people that you told me that have been able to communicate with us and who I want to send some XTZ tokens, I'm going to send them from my Ijara wallet. Yeah.
All right. Do you mind sharing the link to that?
Sure. Just a moment.
I think a lot of us.
Maybe we can get one more question while I share this link, please.
Great. Let's have one more question. One more giveaway. So anybody who wants to ask Frank one more question before we wind up? Make it good. Make it good. It's the last question. Yeah, so I think Evans is asking, there are so many hackathons and grants. Does Tezos have any of that? Are there any activities within the Tezos ecosystem?
Yes, definitely. So in fact, Tezos is actually very actively getting to grow the ecosystem in Kenya and the rest of the continent. So of course, Tezos offers support, not just financial, even technical, which is actually more important. For you to even study the ecosystem, study the technology, and get to know how it works and whatnot. So Tezos will and is in a position to make sure that you can be supported in whichever sort of way that you'd want to be helped. If you have a very viable project, and these projects are as simple as even just trying to grow the ecosystem in your small community. Tezos is very open to that, so they'll be able to share as much as they can with that. And like I said, they're representative here in Kenya, so I'm very open. You can always reach out to me, and I will be able to share as much information as I can to make you just realize your ambition in building on top of the Tezos ecosystem. Yeah. And I think I've shared the link, ijara.io, so check it out, and sure.
All right. Yeah, I think we've got it. Yeah, so I think we've come to the end of our discussion. Again, Frank, thank you so much for being with us. That's 2 hours, 2 hours of serious discussion here. I can see people did not fall off, people were with us over those 2 hours. So which means they obviously enjoyed this conversation and they found value in it. So thank you. Frank, for just, holding on. I think we had planned this for like 1 hour, but
Yes.
obviously it extended for an extra hour. So again, thank you for that generosity. Thank you for everybody as well for holding on. Again, this recording will be available on the BitKE YouTube channel, so you can go back sometime next week. You can, watch it over, share it with a friend or two, and let them just, realize the opportunities that exist within this space. Any closing words, Frank?
I really appreciate having me on, David. And like I said, I'm going to share as much resources as there is to everyone. Just follow us on Tezos Kenya. I have a ton of information to share, from the basics to the detail, the technical details that you'd want to know about Tezos. Let's get started. Let's see how much we can get on to building this community here. There's a lot to offer. So I can also see on the charts a lot of Tezos addresses being sent. So Devi, just share that with me. I will send as much Tezos as I can. And then let's get people to just play around with the tokens, shite and whatnot, and then we keep building the ecosystem. Ideally for us, we just want to keep growing the community and get people to understand what it is, how it works, and everything that they can be able to utilize on this space. There's so much to explore, definitely.
Thank you as well, Frank, once again. And thank you for everybody again. Until the next session, have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.